Before the great cities of the modern world, before skyscrapers towered and satellites orbited the earth, there was a city that glowed not from electricity, but from knowledge. A city that stood like a beacon in the heart of the Islamic world, guiding humanity through a time when much of Europe remained shrouded in darkness. That city was Baghdad. Before we get started, drop a comment below with where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It was the year 762 CE when Caliph Abu Shufar al-Mansur, the second ruler of the Abbasid Caliphate, envisioned something extraordinary. He wanted more than a capital. He wanted a symbol, a city that would reflect the intellect, ambition, and power of a new Islamic era. Under Caliph Harun al-Rashid and his son, Al-Mun, this passion found its home in a place that would become legendary. Beit al-Hikmah, the House of Wisdom. Thabit ibn Qurra reworked mathematical theories and laid the groundwork for trigonometry. He designed hospitals where patients were separated by condition, documented cases were used for training, and treatments were based on logic and experience, not superstition. Baghdad had institutions that we would recognize today as teaching hospitals, complete with interns, head physicians, and pharmacy sections. Dhimmi communities were granted protection, allowed to practice their religion, and often participated in scholarship and administration. Domes and arches reflected a blend of Persian, Byzantine, and local Mesopotamian influences. The works of Baghdad scholars were translated into Latin in Toledo and Sicily. Philosophers like Ibn Sina influenced medical education across Christian Europe. The astrolabe, improved by Muslim astronomers, guided European navigators. Arabic numerals and decimal notation, carried through Baghdad's intellectual network, replaced cumbersome Roman numerals. Water was channeled through the city in aqueducts, feeding lush gardens and public fountains, some of which operated with early mechanical innovations. Baghdad was governed by a system of viziers and judges, with law grounded in both Islamic jurisprudence and administrative rationality. Persian bureaucrats ran much of the empire's day-to-day affairs, bringing with them centuries of experience in managing empires. Al-Khwarizmi, the father of algebra, wrote works that introduced systematic problem-solving using unknowns, what we now call algorithms. Political instability, invasions by Seljuks and Crusaders, and internal strife weakened the central authority. And then came the final catastrophe. What followed was one of the most brutal sackings in human history. It was a symbol of what humanity can achieve when it values the mind, when it opens its doors to all people, and when it believes that learning itself is sacred. The Mongols destroyed libraries, murdered scholars, and reduced the House of Wisdom to rubble. And later, in Venice, Paris, and Oxford, the work of translators, scholars, and students ensured that Baghdad's contributions to medicine, mathematics, astronomy, philosophy, and literature would live on. It is said that so many manuscripts were thrown into the Tigris River that the waters ran black with ink for days. In its bustling markets, one could hear recitations of poetry from Al-Mutanabi, or songs accompanied by the Yud. In its quiet homes, people copied texts by hand, practiced calligraphy with meditative precision, and filled their libraries with both religious and secular works. His influence echoes every time you run a search or unlock a phone. Part library, part academy, part translation center, it gathered scholars from every corner of the known world. Greek, Syriac, Persian, Sanskrit texts in every language were brought to Baghdad and translated into Arabic. Philosophers like Aristotle, physicians like Hippocrates, mathematicians like Euclid were rediscovered, debated, and expanded upon. The layout was unique, a perfect circle 2 kilometers in diameter, fortified with massive brick walls and towers. At the very center stood the Caliph's palace and the Grand Mosque, forming the golden heart of the city. Radiating outward were markets, residential quarters, military barracks, and gardens. Engineers, architects, and laborers from across the empire were summoned. Persian engineers contributed much of the design, fusing Islamic ideals with ancient knowledge from the Sassanid tradition. He selected a site on the banks of the Tigris River, strategically positioned at the crossroads of trade between Asia, Africa, and Europe. But this was only the beginning. Over the next 2 centuries, Baghdad transformed into a metropolis of 500,000 people. The streets were paved, streetlights lit every evening by oil lamps, and the city hosted hundreds of public baths, fountains, and caravanserais. Neighborhoods were organized by craft, ethnicity, and religion. Merchants from China, India, Africa, and the Byzantine Empire brought their wares, their stories, and their books. The location was fertile, the climate tolerable, and the river offered life, transport, and commerce. He named the city Madinat al-Salam, the City of Peace, but it became known to the world as Baghdad. Al-Mansur didn't just order its construction, he personally designed it. In less than 4 years, the city was complete. At the heart of Baghdad's greatness was its obsession with knowledge. Scholars like Hunayn ibn Ishaq translated Greek medical texts into Arabic, often improving upon them. Medicine, too, flourished in Baghdad. Al-Razi, known in Latin as Rhazes, pioneered clinical observation and wrote about contagious diseases centuries before Europe understood the concept. But Baghdad wasn't just a city of scholars. It was a city of poets, musicians, calligraphers, architects, and mystics. The society was complex and layered. Muslims, Jews, Christians, Zoroastrians, and Sabaeans lived side by side. Art and architecture flourished too. Mosques were designed with intricate geometric patterns and flowing Kufic calligraphy. This golden age wasn't a fairy tale. It existed. It thrived. It set the stage for later innovations in Europe during the Renaissance. But like all great civilizations, Baghdad's reign would not last forever. By the 11th century, the Abbasid Caliphate began to fragment. In 1258, Hulagu Khan, grandson of Genghis Khan, led a Mongol army to the gates of Baghdad. The light went out, but it did not die. Baghdad's knowledge had already traveled. It had taken root in Damascus, Cairo, Fez, and Cordoba. As you lie back and let sleep come, know this: Baghdad was not just a city. The echoes of that golden age are still with us, in libraries, in hospitals, in the numbers we use, in the words we speak. Sleep now, and let your dreams wander through its moonlit courtyards and candlelit study halls. The house of wisdom is quiet, but never truly gone.